Hello and welcome back to The Fast and the Curious with me, Betty Glover, team principal Greg James and our F1 knowledgeable hot pot Christian Hugill, who's just bubbling away in America. No longer wearing that cowboy hat for better or for worse, but, you know, we'll miss it. It'll always be there in our hearts. We're doing this Mexican Grand Prix debrief a little bit later than usual, not straight off the back of the checkered flag, because Christian's in Washington, Greg's on that old breakfast show. So this is the first chance that we've all had, but I think it's a good thing because it means that we've had time to reflect and think and take stock about what was peak box office drama, everybody.
Absolutely. Hello, Christian. What a lovely new hat you've got on. What's the motif? It looks like the Rock's Brahma Bull. What is that?
Well, last year when I went to Austin, I had my first experience of American sport at the Texas Longhorns, who do this as their sort of salute, hook 'em.
Love it.
And I properly fell in love with the stadium, with the team, with the city. So this year when I went back, not only did I buy the aforementioned cowboy hat from last week's episode, but I bought this for more general use, as they are my adopted American football team now, the Texas Longhorns.
Lovely. He loves a bit of merch, don't we all? But no one quite as much as Christian Hugill. And I guess, what can I cobble together here? You've been in Texas for ages now, and you love it, which means in a way you've got the Texas Longhorn.
Well, that would work very well were it not for the fact I've been in Washington, D.C. for the past week. Other than that, it's a perfect analogy.
I thought that was great though, Greg. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Betty.
What are you wearing, Greg? Is that a running top?
No, it's just a lovely bit of knitwear for the autumn months.
Oh, it's a knitwear, is it? Oh.
With a side zip, so I can sort of be casual if I want to be, but also sort of a bit more formal when I'm hosting or co-hosting a Formula One debrief like this. So let's get into the headlines. Ferrari are flying. I'm going to do sports voice. Ferrari are flying. The battle between Lando and Max is intensifying. Red Bull have a lot of questions to answer. And Christian's got someone to put in his cubby hole. Welcome to The Fast and the Curious.
You do enjoy that, don't you, when you get to do that?
Yeah, I do.
That was very good, Greg. Well done. Shall we start with this Max against Lando, this fight that is happening? Because it is really starting to get intense is the right word, but also, I guess, dramatic. Probably a bit dangerous.
I'd actually say, Betty, just to steal one of your words, it's a bit juicy.
It's a bit juicy. It's getting a bit tasty. I mean, should we start with, was that dangerous, Christian, from Max?
Wasn't particularly dangerous because there's runoff, but broadly speaking, yeah, it is dangerous because there's rules in motor racing and, you know, I don't want to sound like a you always take the mick out of me when I draw back to this, but like I've done a bit of racing and you race hard and you race fair and there are lines in that. You know, I can remember being in wheel-to-wheel combat and thinking, I'm going to go hard against you, but I'm not going to take the piss. And Greg, you okay?
Oh, no, it's only because in my head, you've still got the Texas Longhorn and you said you're going to go hard against someone.
Yeah, sure. No, I thought that might be the case.
Oh, for God's sake.
Sorry to derail that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm glad you got it out of your system, as it were.
Yeah, and to you.
And yeah.
Oh, my God, guys.
I think I've been calling for more consistent stewarding and more firm stewarding in some cases and not so firm stewarding in others. Too often the stewards throw out 5-second penalties for anything, for putting half a wheel over a white line to getting a machete out and bashing someone else over the head. So in this instance, just come down on Max and say, you are out of order, you are out of line, and here's a proper punishment. It's about time, but well done. And Max, it annoys me. He's good enough to not do this. All season we've been saying, how good is Max? He's winning the World Championship because he's an elite level driver in a car that probably shouldn't be winning the World Championship because he's elite. And yet he has moments like the Mexican Grand Prix weekend where he takes it too far when he doesn't need to. So about time the FIA gave him a proper punishment because he was bang out of order in that race on 2 separate occasions.
I thought the first incident was like a bit I don't know, bit rude, bit cheeky, but whatever. But the second incident just looked like damn right dangerous, didn't it? I think everyone would agree with that.
Lewis made it in the pen in Austin. It was like, well, this happened to me in 2021. Lando made it on the team radio. And this is where I was going to the difference between wheel-to-wheel racing and going hard, but it being impossible. If you just run your rival off the road, you can't race. It makes it disappointing a spectacle for the viewers at home. We want to see good, hard, clean, fair racing. It makes it impossible for drivers to race against him. And then, Betty, to your point at the start, it makes it dangerous. So... yeah, I just think, Max, you're better than this. You don't need to do this. And I actually think part of it is management. We've seen that a little bit from GP in times, his race engineer. But I wanted them to turn around and say, Max, you needlessly got a 20-second penalty there. That could have been more championship points that you'd got. All right, Lando was going to be quicker than you this weekend, but you might not have finished sixth. You might have finished third. You might have finished fourth. But stupidly, you got penalties.
I think brilliantly said by both of you. The thing that genuinely annoyed me, and I try not to get genuinely annoyed by sport because I have to remember that it is entertainment, and that's when I like sport. But it's because he's actually crossed it over into something petulant is the word.
Yeah.
When they announced that he'd got the 10-second penalty, and he went, impressive.
Yeah.
I really hate it when people think they're bigger than the entity they're part of, and that was a real tell that this is a person who thinks he's bigger than the sport. And actually, to your point, Christian, it wasn't great entertainment. It was annoying. It ruined that bit of racing.
It also, he seems to think that the world's against him. And I've said Red Bull have fed into this in the past by saying, well, the British media have sort of said, oh, well, they paint Max out to be the villain. No, Max, you're not above the rules. Not everyone is out to get you.
But I was thinking about this earlier, and Max Verstappen is such a good driver, right? One of, if not the best driver in Formula One at the moment that's out there. But is it the fact that he just can't handle wheel-to-wheel pressure when he is racing alongside somebody? It's like in his head, he just sees red and he can't control himself. And that's him not being able to handle that intense pressure. When he's leading and he's got to do an overtake, he's obviously really good. When he's got the fastest car, he's amazing.
I don't think he sees red. I think he actually I bet you could be right, by the way. I don't know, I'm speculating. I don't think he sees red. I actually think he stays almost too calm and goes, well, no, sod you. I'll just run you off. It's like the rules. I think it goes to Greg's point of the rules don't apply to me.
Do you reckon?
He must know the rules. He must be intelligent enough to know that he's raced a long time. The point I was trying to make earlier is anyone who's raced anything in any form of, I was at the bottom of the ladder, but we all had moments in our heads when you're going, am I being fair or am I being hard? And he's raced since he was 4 or 5 years of age. So I believe he must know somewhere within him that what he's doing isn't fair, because he'd be the first to say if the situation was flipped, I was run off the road. And here's a great example. We'll talk about him a bit more later, but I believe the Liam Lawson-Sergio Perez battle was a nice example of hard, fair racing. Neither was ran completely off the road. Both didn't want to give each other room. It was good, hard, fair racing. Whereas Max just goes, well, I'll just run you off. Not because now people will watch this and in the comments go, oh, British bias. Hello to you. I don't care what you think. I would turn round and say, if I thought Max was being harshly treated, I have no bias towards Max because I'm British. I don't care. I don't care who wins the race. I want it to be a good race. I like Max. I've interviewed him on a number of occasions. I say this all the time. I think he's good for the sport, except for in days like this where he takes it too far. So I am the first to stick up for Max when I believe he needs to be stuck up for. But in this situation, Mexico City Grand Prix 2024, he got it wrong. He deserved his punishment, and it was about time that punishment happened.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on and talk about the battle, because it does keep that battle alive, because Verstappen didn't have a great race and Lando finished second. But the one final thing I'd just like to say about him is that it felt to me he has all the hallmarks of someone who's got too comfortable.
See, I don't see that at all, Greg. I don't, because I listened to all of his post race interviews, and the way he spoke to people for a long time, and the way that he articulated himself was really interesting. He was saying if the car was faster, I wouldn't be put in that situation. He was blaming it on the fact that his car wasn't very fast. But I just wonder whether he's just so unbelievably competitive and all he wants to do is win, that just completely takes over his mindset, and it's like frustration and pent up anger and frustration that the car's not doing what he wants it to do, and then he makes those stupid decisions. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess he creates good talking points, doesn't he, for everyone? I mean, we get rolled up about it.
Oh, he does. Should we talk about Ferrari? Because they are absolutely, but they're just loving life at the moment, aren't they? They got that 1-2 last time out, and now first and third. Why do you think they're suddenly doing well, Christian? I know you talked a lot about their upgrades in one of our last episodes. Do you think it's as simple as that, or do you think it's that they are in this position where they can just sort of flourish with the other two going against each other?
Well, Ferrari didn't bring upgrades to Austin last weekend. So other teams have bought more upgrades than Ferrari. I think we're in a situation at the moment where it's so close at this stage in the season. Now, Mercedes were in this fight earlier in the season, but don't seem to be anymore. But at this stage of the season, it's so close between Max driving the Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari that it's going to be circuit dependent on who's quick. And we've come into both Austin and Mexico City, I think, circumstances that suit the Ferrari car, put it that way. But I also think we've got, as well as that, two drivers that have hit really good form. Charles was absolutely sensational in Austin. He was very, very good this weekend. Not quite his Austin heights, but he was very good. And Carlos this weekend has proved over the course of a season that is he as quick as Charles Leclerc over the course of 24 races? No, I don't believe he is. But on his day, Carlos Sainz can beat anyone in Formula One. A slight Jenson Button air to him. Jenson, over the course of a season, I don't think was as quick as Lewis Hamilton. But on Jenson's day, he was unbeatable. And there's a bit of Carlos to him there. So I think it's a perfect storm of tracks that suit Ferrari, an overall competitive package, and two drivers who are banging form. And they've put themselves right in contention for the Constructors' World Championship by having, over the course of a season, two drivers who can consistently extract the most out of the package, whereas Red Bull, over the course of the season, have only had one. And that's why McLaren and Ferrari are fighting a title fight at the moment. And Red Bull, I think they're going to be third, in my opinion.
I feel like if you look at the season, you're right. Like Ferrari have just looked consistently so good the whole way through. They're the only team to have both drivers on pole all season, which, I mean, they've always been up there, haven't they? But I guess the focus has sort of been on this Red Bull and McLaren battle. I feel a bit sorry for Carlos Sainz, you know. I was thinking about this because it must be so bittersweet for him. He won, and that's the first time that he's won multiple Grand Prix in a season, isn't it? So he's, you know, absolute elation because he's won this Grand Prix. But then it must be so bittersweet because, you know, next season he's leaving Ferrari. He's going to go to Williams, who, you know, arguably a mid-table team, and he's going to have to watch Ferrari compete for the championship next year with Hamilton in. That must, mentally that's difficult.
I still believe that Carlos Sainz will be in Formula One for many years to come, and his time to compete back at the front will come. He needs to keep his head mentally strong. You never know what can upset the driver market. Max leaving Red Bull, I think, is quite possible in the future. A shock retirement somewhere. There's various factors in play. I believe Williams will be competitive in 2026. How competitive, I don't know, but I think they'll be more competitive than they are now. But I agree with you, Betty. You know, his post-qualifying interview, he was exactly right. He has been a huge part of getting this team ready and prepared for the next stage of their journey, and that is fighting for world championships. And it appears, listen, things can change very, very quickly, but it appears as we sit here that Ferrari are going to be right in a title hunt next year, just as he says, right, I've been binned off.
There's an interesting thing, though, which we should just explore a little bit, which is, yes, the drivers get a lot out of these teams and these cars, but equally, they are commodities, these drivers. These drivers are brought along to ensure the success of the team. The team, essentially, if you look at the history books, they are an employer, and they want the best employees to help the company progress. They want to ensure the Ferrari brand is successful. So he's doing a great job. He's being a great employee, isn't he? Making way for the next, hopefully, great employee, Lewis Hamilton. So you can get wrapped up emotionally, like I do. I definitely do. I saw Carlos sweeping his lovely long hair yesterday, thinking, "Oh, poor bloke." But you know, they know the deal.
Yeah.
That's the deal, isn't it? As much same with the football club. They love their big strikers, but they're only getting the strikers to make sure that the club survives.
But without getting too deep, that's life, isn't it? Like, that's no matter what company you work for, it's like that in life, whether you're in sport or not. It is a bit brutal, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, and also, Greg, summing up your point perfectly is the way Mercedes were reluctant to offer Lewis Hamilton a long-term deal because they wanted to bring Kimi Antonelli in, and the way Toto Wolff's seeing it is he wants to ensure the long-term not survival, but the long-term thriving of Mercedes Formula One team. So even in Lewis's case, you've seen it. But yeah, I go back to it. I think Carlos's time will come again because there will be a time when a top team's looking for a good driver who they think can win races. And who knows? Maybe you'll get that opportunity with Williams. Who knows? Stranger things have happened in Formula One.
It's interesting, isn't it? This is what makes sport interesting, is with teams and whatever sport. Just some teams just are out of cycle and they don't have a direction, they don't have a plan, and it feels like that's happening with Red Bull at the moment.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff that they've got to sort out. Do we think Perez is going to be able to last?
I at first thought this was Red Bull thinking we've been too quick to axe drivers in the past, like Gasly and Albon, who've gone on to have success in Formula One outside of the Red Bull fold. Sainz another one, so let's stick with him. I think it's gone way past that now, you know, and I say this with no pleasure. I like Sergio Perez. I say this with no pleasure, but, you know, my job is to analyse the sport as I see it, and I see a driver who is so far beyond being capable of that seat. It's not fair on him as well. It's sad to see. It's hard to watch. Yeah. So, Betty, to answer your question, who knows what they're thinking? Because in a sane world, Checo's lost his seat a long time ago, and then there's been harsh words in the past from the likes of Helmut Marko. Christian came out after the race and said, well, it's a results-based business. Is it, Christian? Because if it was, this should have happened a long time ago. Goodness knows. I'd have got rid of him months ago, but honestly, who knows what they're playing at.
Greg, as a team principal yourself, I'm sure you can sort of, you know, understand what Christian Horner's going through. Would you get rid of him?
Yeah, I would. I mean, his results aren't good enough. There are some really great young drivers knocking around, and Red Bull have got this amazing racing heritage, which they're in danger of slightly screwing up.
They've been so good for the sport, and you're right, Greg. You know, it's a shame.
Yeah, so I would replace him and say thanks a lot. I mean, again, it's not like you don't owe these people a living. You know, he's made enough money for his entire life. Just, you know, that's great. Well done. Also to protect his legacy a little bit and just say, all right, cheers then. Here's your little swan song. Here's a painting of a Spitfire. Off you go.
You're right. People are now forgetting that Checo actually did a really good job in that seat for a time and was a phenomenal Grand Prix driver at one stage. Yeah. His win from the back of the Shakir Grand Prix for Racing Point, sensational. You know, Checo's had some amazing moments, amazing drives.
And I would reward Liam Lawson with that seat purely because he overtook a Formula One car at about 180 miles an hour and raised his middle finger.
Brilliant.
Excellent skills. Multitasking at its absolute finest, can I add? I think that was my favourite moment.
Lovely bit of business.
I mean, listen, Liam Lawson has come into this seat and in RB and immediately been better than Daniel Ricciardo in my eyes. He's also been arguably a little bit better than Yuki Tsunoda, but in reality, he shouldn't be anywhere near Yuki Tsunoda's level because Yuki is a driver with lots more Formula One Grand Prix under his belt. So on that basis, in the Red Bull fold, for me, all day long, it's not even a debate. If I'm in charge of Red Bull, I'm saying to Liam Lawson, good news, my friend, you're off to partner Max next season. And I'm getting on the phone to James Vowles and saying, James, can we borrow Franco Colapinto for a year? And if we like him, can we pay you a lot of money to buy him out of the contract? And I'm putting him in the second RB seat. And can I just say, while I'm on the subject of Liam Lawson, Red Bull need to remember that the drivers that they are tossing around and putting in for trials, and in Ricciardo's case, binning, are human beings. Liam Lawson came in and did a wonderful job last season and should all day long have been given that seat for 2024. He wasn't. He's had to wait more than 3/4 of a season for his chance. And now he's got a final few races shootout to secure his future. What a mental position that is for a driver. So guess what happens when he comes out on track and he's racing against the guy who he's, by Red Bull's own admission, in the running to replace? He races him hard. Does he race him too hard? No, he doesn't. He races him hard but fair because he's a bloody good racing driver. And then after the race, Helmut Marko comes out and says, he raced him too hard. Get out! What do you expect from him? You're putting him in this position. What on earth do you expect? I can't fathom how Red Bull manage these drivers. So, yeah, the stuff Helmut Marko comes out with never fails to amaze me. And if it was true that he was called into Christian Horner's office and given a bit of a after the race, get out. What are you playing at?
Come on then, a quick trip to the cubbyhole, and then we'll let you check out your hotel room.
Thank you very much. In the cubbyhole for a second week running is Kevin Magnussen and the Haas team throughout. Aya Komatsu has come in and done the most wonderful job. We had Gunter Steiner on this podcast the other day saying, you're never going to get success without the money. Well, immediately a change of team principle there has generated more success. Now, Gunter did a fantastic job at Haas over the years. He dragged that team to places it shouldn't have been, but it was time for a change. And Aya Komatsu has done a wonderful job. And Kevin Magnussen, it's great to see him ending his Formula One career on a high. He was a damn good F1 driver in his time. And really, if luck was different, could have and should have had a longer stint in a top team, bar an ill-fated short spell at McLaren. He's been brilliant in Austin, brilliant again today. Great to see him going out on a high. Well done, Haas. They have been sensational these last two Grand Prix, and they will finish the 2024 season. And I hope Io puts on a bit of a party for them because they've been brilliant. They've had a wonderful season. I'm so impressed with Haas this year.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Betty. We'll be back later in the week with a really fun episode inside the Red Bull factory. Then we'll get ready for the Brazilian Grand Prix. But before we go, just a little reminder that NordVPN is an absolute must for any F1 fans or knowledgeable hotpots like you heading to any of the races for the rest of the season. We all use it genuinely at the Fast and the Curious to change our virtual locations to keep up to date with all our favourite TV and radio and podcasts.
Greg, I can tell you 2 weeks in the USA. She's coming in valuable as old NordVPN.
Lovely, Nord. You can also use NordVPN to help save you money when you're planning your next trip to a Grand Prix, because some flights and hotels fees change depending on where you book from. So changing your location when you're sorting all your logistics could help you spend less. And safe as houses, isn't it? NordVPN protects your data when you're using public Wi-Fi wherever you are in the world. Just to steer clear of those hackers and Trojan horses and whatever else they are.
Trojan horses?
To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/TFATC. That is nordvpn.com/TFATC. The link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description of this episode.
I love you all very much. I should have checked out of this hotel an hour and 20 minutes ago, so I'm going to go now. You guys can say cheerio. I love you all very much. Producer Jimmy, Greg, Betty, all of our listeners, all out there. I love you very much. I'm going to go. Bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, Betty. Thank you.